As I said at the top of the show, I've never seen a Premier in this country cause as much mayhem as Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews. It's literally unbelievable. He failed completely to run quarantine hotels, staff them with professionals, failed to run proper tracing of the infected, and failed to properly protect aged care homes. And the result is that more than 600 people are now dead. Hundreds of thousands of people unemployed. Millions of Victorians shut in their homes. Terrible mental health troubles. Closed borders across the country. And a lot of people going broke. You can ask, why is this man, the man responsible, still Premier? It's totally beyond me. Joining me, Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, and Michael Costa, a former New South Wales Labor Treasurer. Michael Costa, why is this man still there? What does it say about accountability these days?
Well, clearly there's some issues in terms of the Labor Party itself. I mean, look, what I find extraordinary about all of this situation is not so much the strategy itself, it's the fact that the strategy is underpinned by a model, assumptions that nobody really understands, and it's so out of kilt with the rest of the country. And, it's quite extraordinary from somebody outside of New South Wales who can walk around without a mask, can go to a restaurant. Yes, there is social distancing, but life is returning to normal. To see Victoria in the position that it's in, the issue for me is, what is the difference in expertise that the Andrews government is relying on, and why isn't it possible to make those assumptions explicit and challenge them? Whether that comes internally from the Labor Party or it comes from the media and the public, it's very hard also to do this in a situation where you've got quarantine and police officers stopping public protest. So it is extraordinary, Andrew. I think that, we've never seen a situation like this. The curfew is beyond belief. I mean, across the globe, people are dealing with this problem without curfews.
It's just, Michael Kroger, I'm really stoked. The more you think about it, we in Australia, we have had a minister resign because he didn't declare on his customs form a teddy bear. Yet we now get to the stage where 600 people are dead because of government bungling, and there's not even a thought that this man should quit. What should the federal government intervene? What can we do here?
Well, there's no grounds, unfortunately, but he won't resign. Labor won't get rid of him. There's no election. That's why he's still there, Andrew. But he's destroying the Victorian economy. What we hope is that there's talk in Victoria now of legal action being instituted in the Supreme Court to challenge the legality of the lockdown measures, the state of emergency, and I gather the basis of that action is that the medical advice is one set of medical advice, but it's not the majority view. It's rather an extreme view, and it's opposed by the majority of people. It looks like in the medical fraternity, including experts, including even some of Andrew's own experts. So through the courts, you would hope there might be some kind of challenge to the state of emergency. But other than that, he just carries on regardless, this man. And, I think he's a degrader. I think the chief medical officer I don't think they're up to the job. You have a look at the record in Victoria. I think they're being badly advised. I don't think they know what they're doing. You see the mess we're in Victoria. There's basically a depression coming in Victoria. Once JobKeeper goes, businesses, restaurants, great restaurateurs like Chris Lucas and Paul Diamantino, who runs pubs very successfully, and even the bloke Matt down at Lucky Penny, all these small business people coming out saying what a disaster is here. And as they say, a lot of these restaurants, cafes, etc., gyms, retail businesses are not going to reopen. And when JobKeeper stops next year, you'll see the real disaster in Victoria, Andrew.
But Michael Costa, the Prime Minister, I don't think is going to follow through. Michael Kroger just mentioned JobKeeper is due to taper down, but given all the disaster in Victoria, there's hundreds of thousands of people that may depend on it right now for their jobs. The Prime Minister suggesting that if that needs to keep going, well, maybe it's the Victorian government that should dip in its pocket. People like you, interstate, shouldn't have to fund any rescue package for Victoria. What do you say?
Well, look, I mean, morally, you probably could argue that position, but I just think that the situation is that the economies of all of the states are so interlinked that I would expect the Prime Minister's actually going to step up. I mean, I think Michael Kroger, and I make the point as well, it's really challenging this medical advice. You know, why are we getting different medical advice from different states that are leading to different strategies? You know, this to me is the key. But I don't expect the courts to do anything, Andrew. I mean, this really has to be fought out in public opinion. You had, you know, the democratic process gave him an extension of the emergency down there. So clearly,
unbelievable. No, that's really unbelievable. You know, when you say that he got this state of emergency powers renewed, I must put up photographs of the politicians who agreed to that and bear moral culpability for what has now followed. I might do that tomorrow. Before we go, just for a break, Michael Kroger, world number one tennis champion Novak Djokovic has been just thrown out of the US Open after whacking a ball in anger towards a lineswoman, hitting her in the throat. I think a lot of his trouble comes from the fact she fell over quite dramatically. But, you know, he was warned. He was warned. Turns out that Djokovic was very snarky 3 years ago when a journalist asked him, aren't you taking a risk the way you throw your racket around in the court in anger? Have a listen to this.
If the ball were to hit someone today, is that something you think you ought to address?
You guys are unbelievable.
Why is it unbelievable?
Yeah, because you're always picking this kind of things. It's incredible.
You keep doing these things. You know,
I keep doing these things. Well, why don't I get suspended then?
Don't you love that media clack laughing along, you know, with Djokovic at the guy that asked him a question that really came true at the US Open? Fair enough that he was thrown out?
No, I don't think so. How ridiculous. I mean, he hit the ball. He wasn't trying to hit the lineswoman, for goodness sake. He did it in anger. But, you know, who doesn't in professional sport when, you know, at sort of times of crisis, do things they regret? But what, to disqualify him for a Grand Slam, if he'd hit the ball and hit the wall, nothing would have happened. So inadvertently, he hit the woman. He shouldn't have done it. He should have apologised. Maybe there's a fine. But to throw someone out of a Grand Slam, I just think that's way over the top, Andrew, to be honest.
Well, I heard
Michael Costa, I've got no time, but I'd like a quick answer from you.
I heard John McEnroe defending the umpire today, so that says it all, doesn't it?
Oh, that's case closed. Forget that. It's done. Good on you. Michael Costa, Michael Kroger, thank you so much for your time.